Would you rather, branded or unbranded? In this episode, we play a little Would You Rather to explore what it really looks like to work with a brand versus go out on your own. We're talking indie education versus branded education, private labels versus big logos, sponsorship, perks, limitations, visibility, ownership, and everything in between. Because it's not just about choosing sides, it's about knowing what you want, what you value, and where the industry is headed next. I am so excited about this episode. You know I'm the self-proclaimed queen of indie, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do.
And so what better topic, and I love the game Would You Rather because it does get very juicy. But what I love so much about this topic is, do people really know what they're getting into? What does it entail to be an indie educator in today's competitive space?
Mm-hmm.
What are the perks of working for a brand? Is your journey with a brand? Is your journey to go indie? And we're going to talk to a plethora of people on this topic, which I think needs a bit more discussion.
Yeah. I mean, actually, having been an educator working for a brand and now being an indie educator myself, it's definitely something that, like, there's a big difference between those two worlds. And I think that, you know, there are pros and cons to either side. So the more that we dive into this and pick it apart, I think we'll come to some fun discoveries.
Yeah, I mean, I come from the branded world. That was my entry into the hair industry. I started at Bumble and Bumble. I worked for them for 10 years. I worked with Michael Gordon at Hair Story before it was Hair Story and Purely Perfect. And so I've come from that world. And going out on your own can be a really scary place, but it's the best decision that I ever made. And I've clearly made my choice. But for many listeners out there, they might be teetering on what their journey ahead looks like. A lot of people have the big vision of working for a brand and being a platform artist, while others just want to do their own thing. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more today.
I'm looking forward to it. And we have a very special guest with us today in the studio.
Yes, Miss Sarah Rapult. She is the co-founder of It's the Break Room. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, so good to see you as well.
It's so good to see you. And you were really such a perfect person. One, I love your personality, and we could be on here if you were our third co-host. Life would be grand. But you have such a great experience because similarly, you've been on both sides of the coin. You've worked for big brands like Bumble and Bumble, more medium up-and-coming brands like Mr. Smith, and now you have catapulted your new brand, It's the Break Room.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, you're right. I've been around the block is what you were trying to say, I think. Yeah. And now get to do it all with my buddy Sarah Jane.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you've worked for these major brands on the inside. What were some of your biggest gains, and what were the biggest sacrifices you had to make to stay in that system?
Ooh, coming out of the gate loaded, huh? All right.
Coming in hot, coming in hot.
Actually, that's a great question. So I think that working for a big brand, I think that's actually a really great place to start. With your education journey if you want to be a teacher or an educator. And the reason I think that is because they already, whatever brand it is, already has an organization to what the content is that they'd like to get across. They've also already have a system in place, and they've been through it so many times that it could not be any simpler to learn whatever the technique is or the products or whatever. So I do think that's a great place to learn. And there's also an expectation there of how your journey will progress as an educator. So that being said, I am glad that I started there.
I also agree that having experience with brands is great before breaking out on your own, because another thing that you learn is not only, getting the experience, but you're also learning the logistical side of things. What does it take to book a class? What works and what doesn't work? I would rather learn that on somebody else's dime
Yes.
than figure it out on my own.
Not only that, when you learn something forward and backward and you know how a class runs through a big brand, you then get to question it. Right? Like that's part of the whole learning process as an educator is you get to question it and you're like, I get it. I see what they're trying to do, but what if I try it like this? And like that's it, right? But you don't get that experience unless you start with the brand.
Like, what were some sacrifices that you had to make working for a brand?
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, there are quite a few sacrifices. As a new educator, it doesn't feel like that because you're learning so many things. You're learning how to be in a classroom with people, how to run your classroom efficiently and on time, right? And to try to talk about a technique or talk about products in a way that people understand. However, I think that the sacrifices come along as you develop as an educator. You need to be learning too. And I think that stops at a point. I think that, to be completely honest, you have to look at who's actually running the big show of that education. And if it is a big brand, bottom line is like where the buck stops is that they're trying to sell product. So do I want to sell product or do I want to teach techniques? And that's kind of where I felt the sacrifice was. Also, you're not going to have as much individuality, things that have worked for you. If that's not in the script, then you're not teaching that, And I would say the last big thing that comes as a sacrifice would probably be there's always politics, right? I think once you're in there for a few years, you're ready to move on.
Yeah, and I know, Christian, you can relate to this. I mean, I remember not being a hairdresser, but working for a product company and teaching at the time when Bumble launched into Sephora. I was teaching in malls across North America. I've literally been in every mall in North America, but it was how to translate layering and product application to non-hairdressers. And I found myself in scenarios where I'm trying to explain to people the nuances between an extra hold, a hold, a gentle hold. Who is this for? What does it do? 57 shampoos that all clean your hair. And I found myself and it was in those moments that it kind of dawned on me that the brand has kind of gotten away from my core values. And I know, you've had the same experience too.
Yeah. The other thing too is oftentimes with branded education, you're rolling into salons that didn't have to pay for the education. So they don't have any skin in the game. They traded in some points that they earned for selling products to get an educator in their salon. So no one actually really values what they're getting because they haven't paid for it, or they haven't, as a group haven't selected this is the style or the educator that we want to have come into our salon. So you get a lot of people that just show up late or I've had people show up right out of bed. Like you can tell that they were still wearing their sweaty pajamas and they show up and they sit with their arms folded and glare at you. Not the most fun. So because the value isn't really there, their engagement is completely off. We also spoke with Akila Douglas. She's a Wella and GHD brand educator and has a lot to share about her experience of working with big brands.
Please welcome Akila Douglas. She is a Wella and GHD brand educator. Hey, Akila.
Hey, Erin, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Where
Excited to
are
be
you?
here. I know.
I am always following you on Facebook and social media, and it's just the plane going across the world.
That sounds about right.
As a brand educator, what's been the biggest perk or growth opportunity you've experienced as an educator for a major brand? And is there anything you feel like you've missed out on by aligning yourself so closely with one company?
Definitely gotten opportunities that I feel like I would have never had without starting, especially starting out with the brand, getting invited to shows and the travel. And just for me, it's really the network. At least twice a year, we have our trainings. We have one coming up in a couple of weeks where we get to literally be in the same room for a few days with some of the top artists from all over the country. And that's always incredibly inspiring. I learned so much from my colleagues and my peers and just having those connections.
You are constantly on the road, and so many aspiring hairstylists out there who are looking to get in with a brand, live the life. Is it as glamorous as it looks? And has travel impacted your relationships, your sense of home? Is there any like opportunity cost to such a heavy travel schedule?
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. I've been home, I think, 8 days this month, but no, it's not as glamorous as it looks. When you miss that layover and you're scrambling to get home, like it happens, and lots of hotels and eating out, and sometimes you're exhausted. I was just delayed 4 hours to Chicago, and right, and also I'm single and I'm child free, so that also makes it easier as well. I can't
Hmm.
imagine doing this if I had like small children, but they
Yeah.
do. I know educators that do, and they make it work, and they have a great support system.
We've spent some time now breaking down what it is to be an educator for a brand, but what if you break free of it all and create your own indie product instead? Who better to talk to this topic than Garrett Markenson, founder and creative director of Reverie?
Hey, Garrett.
Hey, everybody.
I'm so excited to talk to you today because you are in such a unique position being a founder and creative director of an independent beauty brand that has successfully been in business for what now, 12 years, going on almost 12 years?
You know, on the market, 12, 13, but it's about 15 years old.
Amazing. When we look at indie education and those educators looking to collaborate with a brand, become a brand ambassador, uh, sign on to a brand, teach for a brand.
Mhm.
For some, that's the dream, right? To be a platform artist. So now that we've been seeing this rise of indie education, s- circa 10 years ago when it was like a handful of us to now uh, a huge swarm of indie educators, what kind of impact do you think that's had on product companies and brands? Do you think that it's pushing brands to evolve to meet the needs and kind of partner with these indie educators that have something to say? Or do you think it's the brands finding new ways to look like they're progressive, but it's like the same old story, same old shit?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both, right? I'm sure that these brands are being very reactive. I'm sure that they have a team that's constantly looking at what everyone else is doing. You know, okay, this person just got this team on there. Let's draft two or three people to ours before there aren't any left. So it's almost like a desperate play because they might have seen that that road to success worked for another brand, and they hope that it will do the same for them. I don't think that's true, and I don't think that's what indie education is all about. You know, the indie education is an entrepreneur. It is someone who is predictive and productive, self-motivated. They can be half business and half artist. It's kind of a power force. And any brand that could ever get anyone like that on their team should be so grateful. However, it's a wild Mustang at the same time. And there'll be lots of conflict and pushback. And I think that's the point.
You've worked for brands in your early on in your hair career, developed programs for them, and now you're the creative director of Reverie. Any advice or anything you wish you knew then that you knew now that you'd want to share to either someone looking to start their own product line, get into
Mm.
indie education, work with the brands. Like, you've done it all.
Oh, thanks, Erin. It has been a really fulfilling career. I I think, when I've worked with other brands in the past, and maybe just working with people in general, I don't know that I really work that well with people. It's I'm
A rebel
I'm
without a cause, a
you
loner.
know, not in a disrespectful way, but when I am just dreaming and so passionate about what this vision is, it's so hard for me to source other opinions. So when I've been my most successful is when I've curated a team of people who have seen and understood my dream and made it theirs. So some of the other brands that I worked for in the past, I probably was a bit naive and a little low in the hierarchy of, opinions and things like that. But I never withheld my voice. Um, I hope that I came off kind, but I certainly had strong opinions.
Love it. Thanks, Garrett. Thank you so much for contributing to the conversation.
This episode of Dirty Hair Podcast is brought to you by Reverie. Reverie, a daydream of botanical pleasures founded by Garrett Markenson. Reverie is hair care for all humans, no matter your hair density or texture. The clean and innovative formulas nurture the integrity of your hair for unrivaled results. Made intentionally in California, Reverie utilizes innovative skincare methodology to formulate products of substance, a ritual that stands above and apart. Want Reverie in your salon? Email wholesale@gmreverie.com. Mention code DIRTYHAIR10 and save 10% on your opening order. Follow at GM Reverie on Instagram for all things botanical pleasures. Being at the helm of the indie education movement, I could not agree more with Garrett about the definition of an indie educator. To me, it is pure freedom.
Absolutely. Yeah. Something that's interesting is I think a lot of people are defining where they get their education or even what education means to them in a completely different way now, because there's not only places that we can go to get in-person education, we could also have an indie educator or a branded educator come to our salons. But then there's also the whole concept of influencers and people that create content for social media that give these tidbits of information that can provide inspiration and information. And so I'm curious about this concept of influencer as educator. So what are your thoughts on that?
I have a post that I've pinned to the Left Brain group, which this is we're not just influencers, we're fluent. And we talked a little bit with Sarah about this concept of fluency, or it was Dominique, I don't remember. But, this post that says this is fluent education. And I really think there's a difference. There's this whole debate right now over influencers and the type of education that they're delivering. People now refer to it as YouTube University.
Right.
The misinformation that's going out there, people spending thousands of dollars for insta-famous education and getting terrible results. And so it's now even more saturated and confusing who to get your education from. And it's this delicate balance between wanting to be seen and gaining visibility and having that influence, but also matching it with the fluency and to actually know what you're talking about. And so I'm really excited to introduce our next guest. I had the pleasure of speaking to Lo Chabonneau. She is the owner of Strange Bird Salon. She's a Left Brain Group educator, and her platform is all about becoming a cutting specialist.
Hey, Lo.
Hey y'all, how you doing?
Good. Thanks so
Good.
much for checking in with us here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. This is so cool. I'm so excited for y'all.
Thank you. Influencer culture is so huge right now, and
Ugh,
so
I'm
everyone's
like,
quick.
yes.
Tell me your thoughts on influencer culture, because it seems that you are an influencer, you have influence, and a lot of people will look at your following and say, wow, Lo has a lot of followers. Wow, she's really active on social media. She's built
Yeah.
this amazing, successful salon and a clean air salon and an education brand. So I'm sure you get approached all the time. And how do you strike that balance between having that influence and using your voice and also taking on a collab that is meaningful to you and
Yeah.
to your audience?
Yeah, I think, influencer culture is really interesting because I still don't view myself as that, though I've heard that that is where I land these days, which is interesting. But I think that when it comes to real influencer culture, right? I think it's just a big popularity contest. It's a pay me grab. Um, and again, it's like, everybody's entitled to make their money the way that they want to make it. No shame in any of that. When it comes to like more influencer culture in the niche pocket of the industry that I think that we all are all in, a little bit more independent, a little bit more honest, a little bit more like morals and values forward. Like those are the people that I like to follow because it's the people that are being honest. It's not just a highlight reel of all their successes. It's also honesty about how they got there and the hard work that it takes to get to these things.
For some of our listeners out there who might be, trying to get that brand deal or collaboration or partnership, um, do you have any advice to them or feel like, how do you guide them or stay away from the pressure to pick a side to feel like they have to, sell their soul in order to gain popularity, go viral, get a paycheck? Any words of wisdom?
The biggest advice I give them is make sure that you really believe in what you're selling. And this isn't just about a paycheck because eventually they're going to ask you to do something that you're not going to want to do or to say something or to represent something that you don't feel comfortable with. And now you're going to be in a contract and you're going to have to do it. And it's not going to feel good to you. Make sure that your voices align because the last thing that you want to do is be forced to compromise your brand, your personal brand through what they, in quotes, need you to do to make them money. And in turn, you make money. Like you can have a voice on your own, all on your own without all of that stuff. And you can build a different kind of following that's just as successful as just account numbers. It's never the number of people, it's the number of right people that are following you.
For someone who's trying to navigate this landscape without a brand machine behind them, what are some ways that our audience can gain visibility, gain funding, and growth without a brand behind them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, again, it all depends on what you're trying to build, what your end goal is. For anyone out there, that knows me, we talk about hustle culture a lot. Like hustle culture is dangerous, it's damaging. And I still believe that. But I also think there's an element, if you want to be an entrepreneur, there is an element of hard work that you cannot skip. The best way to get people to follow you for the right reasons is to put yourself out there and tell them why. Like you have to be very honest about who you are and what you stand for and what you're trying to build. Um, because if people follow you when you're talking about that, you have followers for life. You have followers that they turn into clients. They turn into, opportunities down the road because they appreciate what you're putting out there. Again, this kind of ties into what we are talking about before with working for brands versus working for yourself. Is if you're not allowed to showcase all of the things, then you're not going to get the right followers. And that's when you start, say you do start going like a route that's a little bit more honest and you lose a bunch of people. If you're just looking at the numbers part of that, you're going to freak out. To me, if I ever lose followers by sharing something real, I'm like, oh, thank God. They were not my people. Like, I'm so glad that they don't follow. That's great. Because otherwise you feel stifled in your own home, really.
Yeah. And that doesn't feel fun.
No.
All right, Lo, thank you so much for that conversation. I so enjoy listening to you and hearing your perspective. You've created something so magical, and I can't wait to see what's next.
She is a strange bird, aptly titled.
Let's go back to our conversation with Sarah.
So, what would you say to someone dreaming of making it, whether that's through a brand or going indie?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to say, I'm going to challenge you as a listener or someone who wants to do this. What is making it? Because if you are chasing someone else's dream, you will not be happy at the end of that. And you know what? Making it changes where you are in your life. When I first started hair, making it was working at Bumble and Bumble. Then making it was being an educator at Bumble and Bumble. Then I was like, making it is writing my own curriculum for an apprenticeship program. Making it is doing that. You know, there's so many different things. And so my suggestion is to like check in with yourself first, find out what making it is, and work backwards.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're so welcome.
I'm so glad we got to hear so many different perspectives on the pros and cons of working for a big brand or going independent. And I think what I'm taking away from this conversation and what I appreciate about my own journey in this industry is that there's so many different ways you can do it. It's really about your goals, what success, looks like to you, what you value. There's incredible education and training that you can get by working with a brand.
Mm-hmm.
The limitations, you don't always get to exercise your own voice. And there's a lot of behind the scenes that needs to happen, although there is the Left Brain group to help you with the logistics and executing and all the behind the scenes that goes into being an effective educator. And then you have the indie artist movement, which is all about your unique perspective and bringing that voice to the forefront. And that also comes with its unique set of challenges and standing out, gaining visibility, being seen in the algorithm, and having your message break through and be valued for what you're delivering, not just for the numbers you have on social media. What do you think, Christian?
I agree. And I think there's, it really does boil down to what is it that we want and how do we define success for ourselves. And by success, it doesn't necessarily even have to mean about monetary success or even number of followers, but success meaning what fills your cup the best, and there's so many different avenues that we can take in this industry, which is what makes the hair industry so incredible. There are very few industries where you can really carve your own path in the way that you can in the hair industry. And for that, I always feel so grateful to be a part of this group of incredible artists worldwide. So it's really about choosing your own adventure. Which direction do you want to go?
And just to throw it back to Sarah, our guest, about making it. And that's going to look different for everybody. So it's time to look inside, figure out who you are, what you have to say. Why is it helping people? Why should people listen? And those are the most important things that if I can give advice to those that are looking to break into indie scene, they're not interested in the big brands. They're looking to bypass that whole experience. Hone in on your message. What is it that you have to say? What's your point of view? It doesn't have to be reinvented and reinventing the wheel and something completely different. But what's your unique take on it? What was that piece of advice that someone told you that made you go, now I have the breakthrough? That's what you want to be delivering to your students. And when I start any workshop or I'm coaching or mentoring an up-and-coming indie artist, that's where you have to start. Hone in on your message. What do you have to say? And that will always be your North Star.
Beautifully put. Well, this has been a really fun episode. I've had so many great aha moments and LOLs. And I think a great way to end this might just be for us to do a nice lightning round of Would You Rathers with all of our guests. What do you think?
Let's do it. Would you rather full creative freedom or full financial security?
Full creative freedom.
Creative freedom.
Full financial security.
Full creative freedom.
Would you rather teach a branded class to 200 or an indie class to 12?
12.
12.
Ooh, indie class to 12.
Indie class to 12 every single time.
Would you rather Run your own thing forever or align with a brand that gives you total freedom?
Good question.
Oh boy.
I think I'd like to run my own.
I mean, total freedom. That's more than running your own brand forever. That would be an interesting pivot. Right now, doing everything so bootstrapped for time and working capital, that would be interesting to have endless access. So I'd like to try that.
Run my own thing forever.
I think that for now, do it myself. Down the road, maybe there's a brand that I would align with that would take things off my plate, but it would have to be a hell of a brand. It would probably have to be the brand that I create. I would have to create a product company.
You'd still be working for yourself.
And I'd still be working for myself. So there would be that.
And there you have it, folks. There you have it.
Like and subscribe to Dirty Hair Podcast, streaming on all platforms.
I'm Erin Dietrich. Follow Dirty Hair on Instagram at Dirty Hair Podcast, me at Queen of Indie _, and the Left Brain Group at the Left Brain Group.
And be sure to follow me, Christian Van Bremen, on Instagram at Christian, CHRISTIAAN. Yes, there's 2 A's. Van Bremen, VANBREMEN. See you in cyberspace.
Keep it dirty. Dirty Hair was created and editorially directed by Erin Dietrich. This has been a See the Tree production with producer Christian Dietrich. Editing by Dietrich Teschner and Robert Granata. Sound engineering also by Robert Granata. Music by Christian Van Bremen and Robert Granata.
Dirty.